Caribbean, another storm is coming. But there's no name for this one. No warning system. No shelter plan. It doesn't rip through roofs. It breaks down families. It stretches hospitals. And it leaves elders behind. The Caribbean is graying faster than we realize. By 2050, over 1 in 4 people in this region will be age 60 or older. In countries like Barbados and St. Lucia, that number will be even higher. But here's the thing. We aren't ready. Not our health systems. Not our pension plans. Not our communities. Not even our mindset. This isn't just about growing old. It's about what happens to all of us when we ignore the generation that came before. The silver shift has begun. Across the English-speaking Caribbean, from Antigua and Barbuda to Jamaica, from the Bahamas to Trinidad and Tobago, the numbers are staggering. In 2000, only 10% of the population was age 60 and over. By 2015, it was 14%. By 2050, that number could climb to 25%. In Barbados, it could reach 31%. In St. Lucia, over 32%. This is happening faster than it did in Europe or North America, and with far fewer resources. Jamaica, which we have already explored in depth, is part of this trend. But this is a regional emergency, affecting all 20 full and associate CARICOM member states. And it's not just about more older people, it's about fewer younger ones. Fertility rates are dropping below replacement levels. Life expectancy is rising, and the base of our population pyramid is shrinking. The result? A top-heavy population, where elders outnumber the children. The hidden health crisis. But living longer doesn't mean living well. What is the leading cause of illness and death among older adults in the Caribbean? Non-communicable diseases, hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, stroke, and dementia. Up to 71% of Caribbean seniors have at least one chronic illness, and many suffer from multiple. But our healthcare systems weren't built for this. Most still focus on emergency care, not long-term support. In rural areas, clinics are few, doctors are scarce, and many older adults simply can't afford medication, tests, or transport. Add to that a massive brain drain, our best nurses and doctors migrating for better pay, and you have a ticking time bomb. The economic burden we're not ready for. Aging doesn't just impact health, it hits the economy hard. As more people retire, the old age dependency ratio goes up. That means fewer workers supporting more pensioners. In 10 Caribbean countries, the working age population is already declining. In others, it's flatlining. But pensions? Most systems are built for a time when people didn't live so long. In places like Guyana, St. Vincent, and Belize, the pension coverage is patchy. Many older adults worked in informal jobs and never contributed to national schemes. Others contributed for decades, but now receive payments too small to survive on. And while some try to keep working, ageism, health issues, and shrinking job markets shut them out. We are entering a future where more and more Caribbean elders will be old, sick, and broke. The forgotten generation. And then comes the silence. Many seniors are left to live alone, isolated, invisible. Loneliness is real and painful. It leads to depression. It worsens physical illness. It shortens lives. And then there's elder abuse, often hidden, often committed by family members. Physical, emotional, financial, neglect. Yet most countries in the region have no dedicated law protecting older persons. Add to that, inaccessible homes and public buildings, no transport to clinics or shops, disaster preparedness plans that forget the elderly entirely. We are building societies that are simply not safe for older people. We've spent decades preparing for hurricanes, but not for our own aging. And this storm is already here. Why it's worse for small island states. Now imagine dealing with all this, but with limited money, high debt, and extreme weather. That's the small island developing state challenge. Many Caribbean nations rely heavily on tourism or agriculture. One bad hurricane, and national budgets collapse. Recovery takes years. Meanwhile, rising sea levels threaten coastal homes. Climate disasters hit seniors hardest, those who can't evacuate quickly, who need medications, and who rely on caregivers. And while young people migrate for better jobs abroad, the elderly are left behind, alone, unsupported, and out of sight. What's being done, and where we're falling short? To their credit, governments aren't ignoring the issue. Many have drafted national aging policies: Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and others. Some have non-contributory pensions to help the most vulnerable. Others run medication subsidy programs. A few have public housing options for the elderly. But here's the problem. These programs are often underfunded. Implementation is slow or fragmented, and services rarely reach rural areas. Worse still, formal long-term care systems, home care, day programs, trained caregivers are almost non-existent. Instead, we rely on families, especially women, granddaughters, daughters, sisters, unpaid, untrained, and overworked. But families are shrinking, and women can't carry this alone anymore. The role of CARICOM, from policy to action. This isn't just a national problem, it's a Caribbean problem, and that's where CARICOM must step up. With 20 full and associate members, CARICOM is uniquely positioned to develop regional guidelines on aging care, accessibility, and elder rights, set targets for long-term care services, pension reform, and elder legislation, support data collection and research to guide action, facilitate training and best practice exchange across member states, elevate aging as a development priority, on par with climate, youth, and crime. Because without coordinated regional action, we're just patching holes on a sinking ship. And time is running out. A better future is still possible. We don't have to see aging as a burden. Older adults bring wisdom, stability, and experience. They can mentor, volunteer, and guide younger generations. Many are still active, productive, and eager to contribute. We just need to see them, support them, respect them. We can reform pensions to be fair and sustainable, build accessible housing and transportation, integrate geriatric care into our health systems, protect seniors through dedicated laws, and most importantly, listen to them. With the support of regional bodies, international partners like PAHO, and community action, we can build a region where growing old is not a sentence, but a celebration. Here are 4 bonus facts. 1. By 2040, over 2.5 million Caribbean people will be 65 or older. 2. St. Lucia will soon have one of the oldest populations in the Western Hemisphere. 3. The Caribbean is aging faster than North America, but with far fewer safety nets. 4. Only a handful of countries have specific legislation to protect older persons. The Caribbean has endured storms, slavery, and struggle, but this challenge is different. It's not loud, it's not sudden, it's slow, quiet, easy to ignore. But make no mistake, the challenge is here, and how we treat our elders now is how we'll all be treated tomorrow. Let's build a Caribbean where aging is safe, dignified, and full of life. Let's not wait. Let's act together. If this video moved you, don't just click away. Subscribe, share, and speak up. Because how we care for our elders today is how we'll be cared for tomorrow. Let's change the future, one voice at a time.
As Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, it is both an honor and a blessing to stand before you today at the Aging with Dignity Conference 2025. We are gathered here with a shared purpose to celebrate the lives, the wisdom, and the immeasurable contribution of our senior citizens. Aging with Dignity is more than just a theme for this conference. It is a promise we make to every senior in our community. Over the next 2 days, we come together, government, NGOs, FBOs, and most importantly, our elderly citizens, to share ideas, identify challenges, and work towards a future that truly supports our seniors. A key highlight of this conference will be the presentation of findings from a baseline study conducted with the support of the Pan American Health Organization. This study looked closely at 4 areas that are vital to the well-being of our seniors. 1. How society views and treats older persons. 2. The level of community support available to them. 3. Access to quality health services. 4. Availability of long-term social care. The insight from this study will guide our discussions here at the conference and help us create an aging framework and roadmap for St. Martin, ensuring we build a sustainable future where our seniors are valued, supported, and empowered. Together, through these conversations and initiatives, we are laying the foundation for our society where our seniors can age with strength, dignity, and assurance that they remain an integral part of our community. The vision of this conference was first posed by our esteemed Secretary General, Ms. Joy Arnell. I want to take a moment to express my deep gratitude for her planting the seed of this idea. Ladies and gentlemen, please give her a round of applause. As Minister, I am humbled and truly happy to see her vision come into realization here today. In addition, I am also pleased to announce that on October 3rd, the Ministry will be hosting Senior Connect, a free event designed to bring our elderly together in fellowship while also providing them with important information on healthcare, home care, recreational activities, and available support services. This is our way to ensure that our seniors are not only recognized, but actively engaged in the life of our society. To our seniors, you are the living libraries, our teachers, and our inspiration. On behalf of the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, I say from the deepest part of my heart, thank you. Thank you for the road you have paved, the sacrifice you have made, and the love you continue to give. May this conference not only honor you, but also strengthen our commitment to ensure that you age with the dignity you so richly deserve. Thank you, and may God continue to bless each and every one of us, and may God continue to bless St. Martin.
Today we're looking at aging in all aspects. Every one of us in this room is aging. We're all moving together. But what is your perception of growing old? What do we think of when we hear the words old, aging? What emotions do those words evoke? What are your thoughts about being a senior citizen eventually one day? And if you are in this room, how do you feel as a senior in your community? So again, what do we think of when we hear the terms? Let's just focus on that for a moment. Aging, aged, or older persons. The life course in general. The process of aging remains the same. However, when we think of it, the manner in which each individual ages or embraces the process of aging is what determines our quality of life. The world once viewed aging as a time to slow down. I'm sure when we think of our grandparents, it was they go from working to being in the house. However, we are no longer thinking of aging from that perspective. It's not slowing down. It's not your final years to just sit at home and relax, retire, live it out until we pass. But aging is an ongoing process. Today, with the increase in accessibility, in just about everything, we're talking about travel, money we don't have. So credit cards, we can actually go to the bank and get that now. Technology. Aging is increasingly viewed by many societies as the years of opportunity. And mortality rates have dramatically decreased. So we're seeing persons living longer, having access to stuff for many more years than before. Before we could hear of individuals dying at 53, dying as soon as they retire at 60, not actually enjoying their years beyond retirement. Take a look at this slide here. We're looking at three ladies, Josita, Lyra, and at the end we have Vanita. All coming from very humble beginnings. Each individual here had a family. Josita was born in Anguilla. She worked in the salt pans in Anguilla. She and her spouse migrated to St. Martin. Between them, they raised 9 children. 9. Josita also worked, maybe some of you might know the name in here, for the Van Grieken family. She was a maid. Once she decided to stay home and take care of her family, she baked tarts, she baked cake, she contributed to her community in St. Peter's. Lyra was also a very humble individual. Lyra raised 7 children. She and her husband migrated to the USVI, St. Thomas. While there, she remained home, she took care of the family. She did everything that a woman was taught to do back then. Be a good wife. She supported her husband, who went out, accessed loans, and what they built was what we would consider an empire today. They became millionaires. Then we move on to Vanita. When I heard the story of Miss Vanita, years and years ago, Miss Vanita left her home in the Caribbean to go to England on a boat. It took her 3 months to get there. Once she got there, she decided that she would be on a journey to become a nurse. She pursued this with all her heart. She married a young man who was working in postal services, and the two of them raised 2 children in Heathrow. Vanita became a very scholarly lady, eventually becoming the director of pediatric services in Heathrow. All 3 ladies from very humble beginnings. All 3 ladies taking care of their families even though they were all on different trajectories. Their socioeconomic background, all the same, and yet they lived to continue to become something totally different than what we expected of a senior citizen, so to speak. Now, when we look at these ladies and we ask ourselves, what is aging? We have to think about Rowan Kahn in 1987. Rowan Kahn, they coined the term successful aging. And the successful aging was to kind of shift from the growing negative connotation of growing old. So the term says that you must be free of illness, socially engaged by contributing to your community, and physically fit. When we look back at the 3 ladies, Josita, Lyra, and Vanita, each of these ladies were free of illness until they weren't. Josita passed away from a chronic ailment, diabetes. Lyra is still alive, but she suffers from visual impairments. Vanita, sadly, she passed away from Alzheimer's disease. Over the course of time, she suffered memory loss. She suffered wandering, as we would call it, sundowners. At the end of the day, she would just disappear. Does it mean then that they did not age successfully? If we have to look at everything today, we ought to look at aging on a spectrum, as opposed to just having these 3 categories: free of illness, because one day we won't be free of illness. We are all engaged in our community in one way or the other. And these ladies were physically fit. Stats show that the world is aging rapidly because of factors such as getting access to better health care, people living longer, so we have lower mortality rates, and individuals are becoming parents at later times. So as we saw in the video before, there are less young people and individuals are aging out. But what about the actual term aging? Go back to what comes to mind when you thought of the words. Think of growing old. As I was growing up, there was an analogy that we had in our home. All things are to throw away. So it was never an old person. My mother uses the term, I'm maturing. As the years go by, I am maturing. I am not getting old. You're not going to throw me away. You're not going to put me in a nursing home. Have you ever heard seniors speak of old-timers disease? Those of you who are amongst your grandparents, aunts, uncles. Back then, that's how they termed it. They coined it old-timers disease because they associated it with growing old, losing your memory over a course of time. But as time has progressed, we have had the opportunity to brainstorm, formulate foundations, which we call NGOs, establish private businesses and services, put in place policies, community outreach efforts. But as people age, what do they actually know of all of these segmented services within our country? Today we're going to look back to move forward with the intent of understanding that how we communicate determines the success rate of each group that we serve. Seniors sat, they interacted with one another. They didn't just stay on a phone. They understood that human interaction did something for the soul, and it still does. when we sit with one another and we communicate. Here we have a symbol. I've had it up so you can look at it for quite a while I spoke. It's called a Sankofa bird. Anyone ever seen it before? Sankofa originates in Ghana, West Africa. It comes from the Akan people. The bird shows us, as a collective, looking back. We're looking back to take from the past traditions, things learned, all the while moving forward. The egg is the key element in this photo here. The egg, it holds the knowledge that we have gained over the past years, which has been given to us when we got back and we took it. So look back at all of the experiences, whether good or bad, to learn from all of them, which can aid in providing conditions to improve the services that we have for the future. Looking back to understand where we started, what the purpose was, and how far we have progressed also helps us in understanding what else may be lacking, or how we can use the knowledge of things past to create better opportunities for the future. So let's focus on our topic for the 2 days, which states, aging with dignity, building a sustainable future. So not fragmented services, not underfunded services, but a future where we see is going to be sustainable for another 30, 40 years, not running out of pension funds, not seeing our seniors suffer. St. Martin, as we have heard, Philuma Rasias boasts more than 200 nationalities, which means our society is very diverse. Each of you in this room, whether a frontline worker, a policy advisor, a legislator, or a senior yourself, you come into contact with people on a daily basis of various backgrounds and cultural sects. Each group has its own culture. And as we've learned over the years, culture is a pattern of learned beliefs, norms, values, systems, relationships, and behaviors. It includes languages, so way of communication, the styles of communication, practices, customs, views, norms. But culture also determines how we perceive others. So as we go on to the next slide, we look at cultural dissonance. Are we receptive to the outsider's way? Do we embrace how they do things in their culture? How do we help persons feel fully accepted while respecting their culture and their norms as they live and age in our society? You must grow cultural intelligence, which is viewing or interpreting the stranger's behavior the way his own people would in his community. By doing this across cultures, we help to develop cultural competence, which aids in the cross-cultural differences. So once we have mastered these areas, by valuing the experiences and perspective of others, we may attain cultural humility. You see the cell phone? How many of you used the QR code to register? Had no choice, right? I love how you said it. We're going to factor in the technological time and what has been occurring with the trusting group. I call seniors a trusting group because I remember a time when you would see two gentlemen shake hands. That was the agreement. Your word stood for something. Nowadays, we have technological advances. So we have the exposure to QR codes. Sometimes it takes you to malicious sites. online banking, unsolicited emails. We have the negative impacts and the challenges that seniors face because of these technological advances. So we have technological barriers, adapting to new tech due to the lack of training or exposure or familiarity. Some seniors, they play in that phone until they understand it. They pass through internet sites, websites, trying to navigate their way, not necessarily understanding what they're doing, but eventually they learn. Negative impacts can also cause isolation. IT can connect people, but it also causes them to become so reliant to interacting online that they view human interaction as a bit cumbersome. I don't really want to speak to her today because she has an attitude on the phone. Let me just send her an email. How many of you have experienced that? And in doing this, we no longer have that interaction with the human. Then we have the generational gaps. With a rapid advancement, it's creating a gap between the younger individuals and persons who are maturing. So you find that they don't connect. And I think about TikTok, Instagram. How are we communicating? Then we have positive outcomes because of the use of technological advancement. It increases independence. So we think about automated systems. Think about assistive devices, not just these digital handheld things that we have, but being able to sit in a wheelchair because I'm differently able and press a button, push a knob, and I can have my independence again. Hearing aids. I may be hard of hearing, but with technological advances, we don't have to wear the big hearing aids anymore. We can have a fine device in a way and no one knows our business. Mobility is like I said before. With positive outcomes because of technological advances, we can look at engagement, virtual communities, help with a sense of belonging. So while on the negative side, we have the isolation because you're constantly utilizing the mode of communication which serves you best for you not to have human interaction. Engagement in virtual communities can help persons who are, again, differently able, shut-ins, to have a platform on which to voice their opinions, to communicate with others who are experiencing the same things such as themselves, to be able to communicate with someone who's providing a service to them. So the engagement is there for that senior citizen. Then we have enhanced communication. It helps seniors stay connected, so thereby reducing loneliness of those individuals in the community. There are some persons who, while they were younger, they may have experienced anxiety attacks because of being in a crowd such as this. They cannot be amongst too many people. So as you age, you find a new way because of the technological advances. As we're dealing with seniors, individuals who are maturing, let's think about how, again, we communicate with persons and how we can change the way that everyone views stuff. So instead of saying, what's going on? What's wrong? Let's think about what is right with you. And in so we're looking at various models. We have the equity focus model. That asks, how are we creating the space to allow people to thrive in their own community? So are we not closing the door on anyone? Are we only utilizing, and I'm going to say QR codes? Some seniors don't know how to get their phone to scan that QR code in order for them to access the website that gives them the opportunity to fill in a form to seek the service that they need. So are we shutting the door, or are we speaking their language? The healing-centered engagement model says we're working on engaging people in what they want. So we're not forcing services on people. Is it them not wanting better? This is the question we need to ask. Or is it the system consistently holding them down that they finally give up? In the linguistics model, we're asking, are we setting our programs to create ways, again, for our clients' way of communication? Can they pick up the phone? Can they speak to a human being and ask a question if it's unclear for them when they get to that website and they do not understand what they're reading? Or are we so fast-paced and reliant on technological advancements that we forget that the 70-plus-year-old who has little understanding of the internet did not get the proper training in order for him or her to access the services needed online, if that's the only route we're moving towards. And we understand that during COVID, we were forced in that direction. It helped some, but it also caused us to forget about our growing, aging population. We have the social model. This is an asset-based model. Someone mentioned it earlier. Churches, using our elders as mentors. They have a wealth of knowledge. So we use these models to capitalize on the strength within our individual communities, aimed at improving social interaction by addressing challenges and promoting social change. Then we have the familial model. It's one of the most important models. This is what we grew up knowing. Uncle, auntie, granny, everyone pitching in to raise children. Children understanding what the traditions are, how to bake that cake, how to beat that batter for the tart, take the goat to the well for the trough. Some of you look at me as if you've never heard of that. I grew up in a family where my parents ensured that I stayed connected to that. So what are the interventions that we can use? Let's look at those. And these are interventions that we have across all areas. So we have the micro level. And that's counseling. That's one-on-one. Direct service. Again, the human interaction. We're going back to that. The small group therapy to address and improve immediate needs by fostering positive change. Then we have the meso level. So we partner to provide culturally sound environments. The focus is on groups, organizations, and communities. So it's to improve the well-being and address social issues. Support groups, community development programs. So it's on service delivery. Then we have the macro level. This is partnering with governments, just as we are here today, different organizations. Partnering with governments to create sustainable systems and capture the groups most needing of the services. So the focus here is very broad. It includes policy changes, lawmakers, program developers, in creating a strategized systemic change for the entire population. So we're no longer focusing on just one target group, but it's the entire population that we're making changes for. This brings me to a story that's very dear to my heart. The basket was placed here on the stage. This comes from familial models. Coming from a family that is very creative in using what is in our community. The basket there is mango pepper. I don't know if anyone in this room has ever heard of mango pepper, has sampled mango pepper, or even knows what mango pepper is. One lady did this. So I take you to the story of Ubuntu. An anthropologist had habits and customs of the tribe. His work was now over. So he waited for transportation to take him to the airport to return to his home. He'd always been surrounded by children of the tribe, so to help him pass time, he proposed a game to them. During his time in the city, he purchased candy, sweets, treats. So he placed all in a basket. This basket is symbolic of the treats. Attached to the basket, he placed a ribbon, and he placed it under a tree. He then called the children together, drew a line on the ground, and explained that they should wait behind the line until he said, "Go." And when he does, they should all rush to the tree. The first one to arrive would win all the sweets. When the anthropologist said, "Go," they unexpectedly held one another's hands and ran to the tree together as a group. Once there, they shared the goodies with one another. The anthropologist was surprised. He asked them why they had all gone together as opposed to fighting their way through it when the one that got the basket would win all the treats. They said, "Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy when all of us remain sad?" Ubuntu, the essence of being human, embracing hospitality, caring for others, being willing to go the extra mile for the sake of another. Are we willing to do that? So while we know, have worked, and have frameworks already in place, let's move toward cultural humility, remembering being a citizen, a senior citizen at that, is not a right, but it's a privilege. And we are all